Very good. We are. Tell me if we are.
We are live.
We are live. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to our weekly podcast, Mauls, Balls and all. And wherever you choose to watch us from, be it North America, Canada, Philippines, Thailand, Europe, we've members all over the globe who tune in and watch this. With me is Matt Boland, Richard Holland, Claire Devney, Peter Martin, and as I said in the group, our special guest this evening, a man that needs no introduction, but he's going to get one anyway. Victor Costello is with us, Blackrock College, former Olympian. He competed in the 1992 Olympics in Barcelona in the shot put. Nearly 40 caps for Ireland, over 120 caps for Leinster. He did stints with Connacht, he did stints with London Irish, went on to be a pilot, and now he is a businessman, Victor, I see, in Florida. Is that correct? Did I get that right?
I saw you liking my LinkedIn post there, Peter. So it's very honest. Thank you very much. Yes. Yeah, we're currently, aviation is an amazing industry. I'm in aviation 20 years, which is twice the amount of time I was in rugby. And I was in Ryanair for 10 years. I went from a glamorous sport called rugby, which we all love, where in professional rugby, the manager hands you your passport as you go through passport control as a 20-year-old. I went from there into the robust nature of Ryanair for 10 years, which I have to say was absolutely fabulous. And from Ryanair then we set up our own business. We have a flight school in Florida, and from that we build hangars for private jets for all you rich people out there, and we house your jets for you, you know. And we won't we watch them for
sorry, Victor, I meant to say, and you still owe me a point.
I could probably get you one now if you want one, and virtually hand it over to you.
Yeah, I'm sorted, Victor. Grant.
Oh, yeah.
No, I tell you, it was. I was saying to the folks briefly. It was after a game in Johnny Rook. We're in Kylie's. There was a massive. Kylie's was stuffed. We're all chatting away, blah blah. And I think I bought you a point because, just because who you were, that sort of thing. So, and by the way, we played against each other in school.
Yeah.
Blackrock. I play for De La Salle.
Oh, where was that? Home or away for us?
In your place. Willow Park.
Did we win?
Oh, did you fucking what? Yeah.
Well, in 83 and 85, we didn't actually win. Like, De La Salle was a bit of a bugbear for us back in the day. You know, we lost in 83. I was at that game. We lost in 85. But I mean, we're over, obviously 50 years later.
Well, the bogey team.
The bogey team, yeah. Yeah, but listen, I'll get you the point back. I mean, you waited your time. Like, it has to be the highest. Did you wait till they put the points up last week? What was it, €3 or £3 in Kylie's Irish punts, and now I've got to pay six something for the same. Kylie's isn't there anymore.
Six something,
it's negated.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. It's gone. Okay, right. Let's start talking about all rugby. Victor, because you're our guest, I'll go to you first. The story that's dominating everything, this Owen Farrell Beckett debacle. What do you think? Are we just blowing smoke up someone's hole about this? Like, is it blown out of all proportion? I mean, what you being the ex-player, the ex-pro, the ex-international, what do you think about this?
Oh, I think if people are still talking about it, I was talking about it to a friend of mine about an hour ago. Sometimes a quick decision is a good decision, and the more kind of bunkers and TMOs you get involved, the longer it lasts. I mean, the problem is, at this moment in time, every country has anxiety. And I think Ireland has the worst anxiety because of their reputation in the World Cup, about this World Cup. And, Owen Farrell needs to change his tackle technique. There's no doubt about it. It was a high shot. And, as the rules go, a red card. Now, every time that happens, everyone goes, oh, well, somebody fell into him and he dropped his shoulder and he dropped his knees and so on and so on. And we all have an opinion of it. And then you go to a team or a bunker or World Rugby and it drags the arse out of it forever. I thought Owen Doyle wrote a great article about it today in the Irish Times. There would be an argument that you give a red card, you move on, then we decide what the ban would be. I think, prior to World Cup, everyone's so desperate to make the plane, and that's really what it is, be it by selection or when you are selected and lucky enough to be selected, not to avoid injury, and there's always horror stories. In my time, it was Jordan Murphy. We played Scotland in a warm-up game prior to the World Cup, and Jordan Murphy tore his knee, gone, finished, and missed out in the World Cup. It happens to people. With this red card is big time highlighted as it was a red card. He's going to get banned for the World Cup. How long will the ban be? And it's just everyone's over anxious. He needs to change his tackle technique. By the letter of the law, it's a red card. He needs to drop down lower. He leads with the shoulder. Now, he could lead with that shoulder because he might have a weak left shoulder and therefore he's overcompensating. So it's wrong to think that he drives the shoulder into the head. That's his tackle technique, but he has history here. So I think by the letter of the law, it's a red card. Get the punishment in, get the time off the pitch and get on with the World Cup. But I just think everyone, and rightly so, everyone is so worried about getting on that plane to France. That this is the silly season and such. But as I said, no one was injured. But I would definitely say, changing from yellow to red back to yellow, it doesn't do anything for the game, And who's in control, who's making the decisions? Are the refs strong enough? It's just you need a dominant ref to make decisions, and then we all forget about it and move on, get on with the game.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Matt, this whole Farrell debacle.
Well, look, as Victor has said, and as everybody else has said online and in every sort of media outpost the world over, it was definitely a red card. And the chap has gone to tackle school before, so he knows what he needs to be doing. He needs to just lower his tackle height. Whether there is something in what Victor is saying that he has a weak left shoulder and he's trying to overcompensate, it still is the fact that he still needs to get lower. Go back to grassroots and kids playing. It's always cheek to cheek, and that's what you teach kids playing, growing up, cheek to bum cheek, and that's how you tackle, and that's it. It just like if kids can do it, adults can do it, and he just needs to learn. And I think it's a bad decision rescinding the red card. Like Victor is saying again, you need that strong personality, you need that strong referee to just go, no, that's a red card, end of story, and let the citing commissioners and the judges after deal with the punishment. But at the end of the day, he should have been banned. It's not the first time. It definitely won't be the last time. And I'd say he's going to be a marked man in terms of officiating at the World Cup.
Actually, look, the guy at the moment, he's got a feckin' loyalty card for tackle school at this point in time. Richard Holland, this whole Owen Farrell thing.
Look, it just
I know
it was a red card. We said it last week
because it's been highlighted and spoken about.
Yeah, it was a red card, and I think World Rugby I think they've shot themselves in the foot by doing what they've done. I'll be honest with you, by saying it or what. Initially, they said it was a red card, and then they said it wasn't a red card. So, which is it? World Rugby need to basically.
No, but did you see that? It's
the Six Nations.
It's the Six Nations. It's the Six Nations crew that officiate the sighting ceremony. So that's how World Rugby can repeal.
If it's Six Nations, if it's Six Nations, why are they taking 3 Australian? Why were 3 Australians sitting on the panel?
Because it's supposed to be independent.
I don't know.
Okay. No, that's fine.
Okay.
Well,
I don't want to dwell on this because it's got. Well,
but
I want his solicitor. His solicitor is good.
Should we be dwelling on this when recently our captain got a ban reduced from 8 weeks to 3 weeks, or 8 games to 3 games? We're in a position where we're kind of pointing the finger at Farrell. He should get a red card, whereas Johnny Sexton got off reasonably lightly for abusing a referee. So I think, we all know that in the game of rugby, if there's a red card, it's game over. Most of the time, it's game over if there's a red card. Unfortunately, these days, if you give someone a ban before a World Cup and they can't travel to the World Cup, it's potentially World Cup over for that country or definitely for that person. So, are we allowed to have a bit of a mulligan prior to the World Cup and just get everyone on that plane, who's standing up and not injured?
Yeah.
With the same position, they dragged the arse out of that Sexton debate. It could have gone really bad. I heard that it was 8 games was the ban and they reduced it after a lengthy debate to 3. So
I heard that as well. Yeah.
So I'd be keeping stum. Get on with it, you know.
Now here, look, Victor. Look, you've been rattled out now. You've got form here. Look, one viewer. I once met Victor in Drogheda along with Shaggy, Dricko, Rog, and made the mistake of saying, "All right, Vicky, I was drunk and bought him a pint as an apology and had a great chat about the Barcelona Olympics." There you go now.
Well, I don't have my glasses, so I can't read. But thank you very much. Yeah. Well, do you know
what? That's Dara Weston.
The theme of this webinar here is that everyone seems to be buying me pints. I just want to make I do like a pint, and I do buy them back, right? So take the name of that guy and make sure I pay back, because I feel there's a debt cross. 2 pints I owe in the last 10 minutes. I remember that night. It was a great night up in Drogheda. Very good night. Luckily enough, there was no camera phones, and he didn't have a camera phone, that gentleman.
No, there you go. There you are, Victor. Another question. The burning question for all the nations now is: do they drop forwards or backs from their Rugby World Cup squad to make room for the 3 barristers they need for Bunker and TMO?
In fairness, whoever the barristers were great. They should send them over to Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, actually, do you know what? A very good friend of mine is the barrister who does this, and he won't like me mention his name. His name is Derek Hegarty. He was in the Times there for representing Johnny Sexton, and he played for Leinster a while back in the late 90s, and he also played for Munster and Terranure. But he actually, because he's great friends with Felipe, he's gone over to the World Cup himself, and he's representing Ireland and Argentina for any disciplinary competition. So there you go. There's a bit of trivia for you. Derek Hegarty, fantastic gentleman. William Pry, solicitors. And he was the guy who got, I think, as far as I know, got Johnny Sexton's ban reduced. So the unsung hero of the hour, Derek Hegarty.
Good man, Derek. Good man.
The story is lawyer up.
Yeah, there you go. That's it. Someone asked there, Victor, a while back, what was it like to play? I know it's a very, you can go either way with this. What was it like to play for Leinster and Ireland?
That's from Gregor Galway.
Was it Gregor?
Yeah, it's Gregor, you know, like it's an incredible experience, and it stays with you all the way through your life. And unfortunately or fortunately, you compare everything you do to it, you know. And you know, I still wake up. Would you believe? I have dreams, and I'm really happy with my career. I'm really happy with what I do afterwards. I love watching the rugby, but I don't kind of hang around or anything like that. And but you do have dreams, and you still think you're playing. And in these dreams, it's like kind of like, well, you're retired, but I came out of retirement at the age of 50 odd, right? But it's mad, but it's a great privilege. But it's a short-lived privilege, and it always comes to an end. So you really have to enjoy it. But it is crazy fast, running out into Lansdowne Road or the Aviva. And I always say this to people: you know, be in your seats, because rugby players can see empty seats, and it really affects a player coming out to see seats that aren't full. And it sounds crazy, because you think, well, I don't care, there's the anthems and all that, but you see everything from the pitch. You can see people getting their seats last or having a chat and not listening to the anthems, whatever else. But it's a fantastic privilege playing for Leinster. It's such a bunch of good guys, friends for life, through thick and thin, and battles. And then, you know, as a kid with rugby, you know, you go through success and failure, you go through wins and losses, dealing with press, dealing with fans, dealing with media. And it's a great apprenticeship for life. And as I said, I went into Ryanair afterwards, and Ryanair, you know, probably Ireland's premier company. You know, I can honestly say Ryanair is probably the best thing I ever did. It's a fantastic monster of an operation around Europe. And I went in as a professional rugby player with, you know, who had all the kind of privileges in life. And then you go to this company where you just work hard for everything you get, and the ethos and the ethics you get from that are incredible. So back to Ireland, the discipline as a youngster that you have to have for training professionally is installed in a very early age. But as I said, it moves very fast. But what a privilege to meet the people you meet and play with the people you play with. You know, and again, that transcends winning or losing. Obviously, in our era, we tipped a few wins here. We nowhere near had the consistency they have today, or 10 years ago. But we got the odd victory here, and then we celebrated it and we enjoyed it, as did the fans. And we all celebrated together, up in Drogheda or in the Kylies. But fantastic memories, and each generation has their own kind of memories. So it's really, really good. And not everyone can do it, and those who do it certainly enjoy it. And as I said, work hard for it,
Yeah. Funny enough, you were talking about the length of the career. We had Alex Soroka on a few weeks back, and he was saying that the rugby career is 15 years. If you get 15 years out of it, you'd be doing well.
Yeah, I mean, it's normally 10 years. I mean, 15 years if you push it. I mean, it's depends if you're back or forward, but the intensity in the hits these days, I mean, you'd be very lucky to get 15 years. I mean, you look at Cian Healy. I mean, everyone goes on. Brian O'Driscoll, best player in the world at this time, easy. Rob Kearney, the most decorated. I know I'm focused on Leinster here, but Cian Healy, I mean, what a machine. I mean, he was there when I was there, he was coming in. He'd probably deny that, but he was coming in. And, unsung hero. The guy's going to a World Cup, 4th World Cup. So, I mean, there are sacrifices because you do miss out on a lot of what your friends would be doing, your contemporaries from school, be it weddings, be it christenings, you miss all those, and, I have friends of mine that didn't speak to me because I missed their weddings, and it took a long time to recover. They just didn't understand the commitments. They thought that we just played on a Friday night and that was it. And the sacrifice to go with it. So you're with the band of brothers. And there's a generic age in professional sport. So if you look at the likes of Johnny Sexton, who's 38 or 37, and you look at the youngest member of the squad, I know Jimmy Ryan, whoever it might be, Hugo Keenan, whoever it is, there's a generic age because the days you're off playing are the same days your mates are off playing, whereas your other friends who are in normal jobs 9 to 5 are working and not off. So you end up hanging out with guys who could be 10, 15 years younger than you. I remember with Gordon Darcy, myself and Darcy would go to the cinema on a Thursday night, and I would have been in my 30s and he'd be in his early 20s, but we were hanging out together. So I always call it, as a professional rugby player, you're a generic age of 25, and everyone's 25. And then when you retire in your 30s, you realize then you're joining the career or the workforce, and you've got to play catch up. You've missed all the weddings, christenings, whatever, divorces it might be, and you're playing catch up. Suddenly you can go to everything and have your weekends back. So it's a really interesting career. But you've got to be at the top of it. I mean, when you get your kind of 29, 30, if you're not really playing regularly for Leinster, if you're a squad player, you really need to make a decision. Because when you do go on to the 38s or mid-30s, you're eating into the next career. And I started off with Ryanair, I think I was about 36, 37. And even that was late. And Ryanair took me in a really bad time. It was a financial crash. And I trained to be pilot, was with Ryanair for 10 years then afterwards. But I was flying with guys who were 10 years younger, maybe 12, 13 years younger. I was the first officer. These guys were captains. And actually, I mentioned that name, Derek Hegarty. He finished up in his 30s and he went into to be trained to be a solicitor. And he always, and this sounds like an ego thing, it's not an ego thing, but it was hard for him to do the filing and get the tea as a 30-year-old and be told by a 24-year-old to get the tea, right? And I remember sitting with him and going, how do you do that? And he said to me, and I'll never forget it, because I was flying around Europe as a first officer on the right end of the flight deck with a 24-year-old captain. And this guy, probably all he ever wanted to do was be a captain of a plane. For me, flying planes was a career change. And I had my mindset from Derek, it was, okay, I'm 36 as a first officer, you're junior, you're 24 as a captain of an aircraft. Someday I'll do what you do, but you'll never do what I've done. And that was the attitude you have to get yourself up to the level of the people, or play catch up, And, when that guy says 15 years professional, absolutely, you can squeeze the ass out of it all you want. But there is a time you really need to make a decision for the next career. And without pontificating here, the next career that you have, you can bring skills to the next career that most people wouldn't have. For example, playing professional rugby, no one is ever late. There's no one ever late for training sessions. You can't be. Your mates are beside you. You're most likely living together. You can't be saying, "Oh, I ran over the cat," or "the traffic was bad." You're never late for training. So there's a huge discipline ethos there, punctuality. It's like yellow cards, red cards, whatever else. So there's a discipline embedded to you. There's punctuality embedded in you. There's dealing with success, as I said before, dealing with failure. So there's a huge amount of characteristics you gain from professional rugby that other people in other jobs mightn't have, that you can bring to the new job once you have the skill of that new job, be it a lawyer, doctor, whatever it might be, or IT, whatever it might be. Once you learn the skill, you can accelerate yourself. But there is that point, 30 odd to 35, where you really need to decide: will I drag the arse out of this because it's good money, or will I cut now and then develop my new career? And of course, there was a time in the crash, the financial crash, that you're better off staying in rugby if you can as a squad player or whatever else, because there was a financial crash out there, credit squeeze. But generally, you're better off making the jump. If you're not playing.
Victor, I'll ask you now. I'll ask you for a yes/no answer to this, because
not like the last one.
We've a load of other topics. Would you rather have won an Olympic gold medal in the shot put or a World Cup winners medal with Ireland?
A World Cup winners medal with Ireland, of course. And I'll answer. That's a yes or no answer, but I'm not going to give you a yes or no answer. I'm going to answer that and tell you why. Right? Basically, here's the deal. Right? With sound like Joe Biden now. With athletics, with athletics, you're on your own, right? You're shot putter, you're a marathon runner, you're on your own. What the athletes don't get and miss out on is the team sport. When you win an Olympic medal, it's great. Open top bus in Dublin, fantastic. Not that I've won one, but that's the way it is. You win a World Cup, you've got 15, 20, 30 other squad players you celebrate with. It's a team sport, totally different.
Yeah.
I'd much rather win with a team than on my own.
It also comes back that you have their back and they'll have yours. It's not like if you have a bad day, there's going to be someone there who will carry you. Whereas if you're out there on your own,
when I was throwing a shop around the place, the glamour sport that it is, if I lost, I didn't care. I was going home. I let myself down. I lost. If I lose in front, if I drop a ball with the 1,400 guys around me on the pitch and 90,000 people watching, then I got a problem. You're letting other people down.
Yeah.
Okay, folks, I'm going to go around this way. Matt Boland, the injuries that some of the international squads have gotten during the warm-ups, I think two of the most severe injuries for team performance within the World Cup is France, with Ntamack gone and his interaction with Dupont on the pitch. I think they've got a really great 9-10 thing going on there. Also, Cyril Boyle, one of he's a loose head, I think, isn't it? Boyle, loose head. Yeah, probably one of the best in the world. Those two are gone. Seriously, and the bookies were all over it. France dropped from favourites down to second favourites. New Zealand taking over. There's a question in there somewhere, Matt. I don't know.
Yeah, so I believe. But look, I mean, rugby is a very attritional game, and injuries happen. Whether it's coming up to a World Cup or coming up to a URC final or a Champions Cup game, it's going to happen. And it inevitably happens to a team, if not a few teams. So, I mean, the idea of the warm-ups is to get them ready. They have to play game time. They have to get on the pitch. They have to get that intensity up again, get back with the guys, get the form back in. They have to play. So it's a risk, but it's a risk that they have to take. Like Victor said, like Jordan Murphy years ago when he got injured just before a World Cup in a warm up, it's inevitably going to happen. You pray it's not going to be one of the Ireland lads, because obviously that's not what you want. You want them all to be there performing for Ireland, playing in a World Cup. Losing Ntamack, it's a big blow for France. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But there's a lot of players there in France that would, probably not as good as the combination between Dupont and Ntamack, fair, but you've got lads there that are equally as good.
Well, as James Grennan calls him, Jelly Bear.
Look, Jelly Bear is, Melvin. He's a good player. Thomas Ramos, he can play fly half. France are a bit like us. We're quite good with the depth of squad that we have now. So, like, there is players there to come in for injuries, and we're kind of lucky now the past few years that we've got a really deep squad and a lot of even like the first players that are not playing, there's second guys there that are equally just as good and probably are in for a shout for starting. Anyway, it's just one of those things. It's gonna happen. Injuries happen. You just got to get on with it. And I think the team that survives injuries or are able to get players in to replace injured players will be the team to go on and do the best in the cup.
Okay, Richard Holland.
Yeah, look, obviously, and on a personal level, you have to feel for anyone they've gone through that cycle, they've gone this far, and then they pick up a knock a month before the World Cup and they're out. You have to feel sorry for them. But as Matt said, France have the depth there. The bookies, they're going to do what they're going to do anyway. The house always wins.
Yeah,
but yeah, they're a necessary evil, these warm-up games, because you can't be going out there rusty.
Yeah, totally agree.
It'll be the likes of a Japan or a Georgia will turn you over if you go out there and you haven't played a game beforehand. It's just one of these things. But necessary evil.
Okay,
it's unfortunate and it's going to happen.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Richard.
Yeah.
Claire, go on.
As everyone said, it's not nice for them to go out, but they do have they've Jelly Bear, they've Ramos, they also have Assoy as well. He can slot in as well. I think France is still going to be dangerous even with him gone. I don't think one player doesn't make a team.
No.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, one player doesn't. And in fairness, like I collected a chap from Glasgow. The golfer came from Glasgow, avid Scotland supporter, and we were talking about it. Do you put your best squad out? Like we play England this weekend. Do we put like the top 15 out and risk them getting injured versus do we hold it back a bit for the World Cup? We still have two warm-up games before we even get to the World Cup. So it's a balance, and it's a balance in that club, getting good game time, getting match fitness, and trying not to injure your best players. Like Van Persie is gone from England now as well. He's gone. It's that. Right. That is the game that we play.
Okay, Peter Martin. Thanks, Claire.
Yeah, just really echoing what Claire and the lads have said is that, look, they're necessary evil. I think it really is for ourselves. On Saturday, I don't think Farrell will be putting out, big guns. I think he knows at this stage, he definitely knows, who's going. It's just a question of certain combinations. There'll be small little, at halfback and what have you. Like, he knows, I reckon he knows his squad already. It'll just be a question of, injury doesn't throw a spanner in the works. Like, hopefully Jack Conan got a positive update apparently today. On the flip side of that, Jeremy Lockman was called in because Dave Kilcoyne got a knock. Yeah. We don't know how good, bad, or indifferent Dave is as of yet. But I would say that I can't imagine Andy Farrell will put out a strong 15 on Saturday. It'll be something similar to the Italy game insofar as the type of team he'll put out, and there'll be combinations that he'd want to have a closer look in the heat of battle to see how they work and respond to pressure on that.
Yeah. Okay. Good points, Pete, Claire, Matt, Richard. Victor, there's a comment there for you from one of our colleagues.
James Brennan.
Yeah, I see it there. James Brennan. He said, I'm going to show that part of the VT to my 12-year-old son who wants to play rugby for Connacht and Ireland and the Lions and has not thought about a career beyond rugby. Thanks, Victor, and well said. There you go.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much.
High praise you.
Thank you very much. I thought it was like I owed him a pint like the last few. Right. Yeah. Well, look, just on those injuries, thank you very much to that person. I can't read here because I don't have my glasses with me, but I see the text. I'm getting old. What I'd say to you is that
you're the same age as me.
I know, but like
getting old.
Yeah. And you've got a filter probably on that. Basically, the World Cup, I guess, the World Cup as a package, you've got to manage injuries. They're going to happen, and when Andy Farrell picks his squad, there's going to be people on standby that will be out in Portugal or Spain enjoying a beer that will get dragged over to the World Cup. It's just the nature of the competition. And, the one thing I like about Andy Farrell compared to other coaches is we're all getting a little bit upset about who they're going to pick and who's going to be around, or will we avoid injury? I think Andy Farrell, as what we all know, embraces this kind of demise. If there's any issues like that, he expects it and embraces it. So in that respect, we're in good hands. I mean, there's a delicate balance between getting match ready and then burning out. I think this time 4 years ago, if you remember, we got hockeyed against England, right? Hockeyed. And the unsaid thing was at that time, I remember Rory Best, we threw 7 lineouts to England and it was game over. We lost our lineout. It was an atrocious lineout performance. But from that, I think we panicked, and Joe Smith picked the same team for the next few warm-up games and basically flogged our players. If you remember Robbie Henshaw going up the middle against Wales in the Aviva Stadium, repeatedly up the middle, and he was banjaxed by the time the World Cup came around. So this year, even though you see what's happened to Antamac, we are in good shape. There's a few little light niggles out there, but we can manage adversity much better than we ever could. So our main concern is managing the games, the repetitive games, the referees, and so on. I think we embrace these games to get ourselves right for the campaign itself, which has come up very quickly. But I think if something was to happen with injuries, I think we're well placed to cover. And the good thing about it is, arguably our best out half is not going to be playing. Which is a bad thing in a lot of ways because he's going to be rusty, but he's not going to get injured, which is a good thing.
Do you know, Victor? Do you know what team are absolutely fucked if they get any serious injuries because they don't have the depth? Is Scotland.
Yeah, but I'm very dangerous. Mentioning them these days, they're coming good. I mean, we played.
Yeah.
When we played them 4 years ago, they were just one pass from getting around us. We had a 4-up defence, and the last pass, every time they went wide, they were trying to get around us, and that last pass just didn't happen. If that last pass did happen, they would have beaten us. So Scotland are very dangerous in the World Cup always.
If Scotland could play rugby for 80 minutes, they'd be bleeding, right? They would be great. They played 2 great halves of rugby over the past 2 weekends. They won the first weekend. In the second half, they won it. Last weekend, they nearly done the same. 2 great halves of rugby over 2 games. If they could play 80 minutes, they would be very good. They're starting to, as Victor said, they are dangerous, and they are only that one little click away from being.
They'll take a scalp somewhere along the way.
Yeah,
to make sure it's
hopefully it's South Africa scalp they take.
Yeah. Well, I've said it before here, Victor. We've had the RTE commentator Hugh Cahill on, and he said that Scotland would get out of that group. So
really,
yeah, he bet us money now, Hugh Cahill, if you're watching.
It's a tall order, but see the thing about it is like we've got such a monkey on our back, and the monkey ends up being a silverback gorilla the closer we get, and everyone is terrified. Everyone's terrified. Jesus, we have to get out of our group. And the problem is, if a year ago, if a referee was refereeing New Zealand versus Ireland in a quarterfinal or France versus Ireland in a quarterfinal, the referee would say, do you know what? Ireland are number 1 in the world. It isn't beyond comprehension that Ireland will win this game and proceed to the semi-finals. So I'm going to ref it 50-50 and not have any expectation. The problem now we have is, do the referees like us or not after the Johnny Sexton debacle? Do they hate us? Do they have a grudge against us? Whatever. So, there's so many little factors and subplots when it comes to World Cup. Managing referees, managing expectation at home, managing players, managing injuries. Like it's a nightmare for a coach, but makes a great spectacle for us. But from an Irish point of view, 3 years ago, when this draw was made, you'd be thinking, no, we're never going to get out of that. Then we thought we can beat everyone to get out of it. And now we're getting nervous again because it's coming up, So,
I know.
But this group of players have surprised all the way through their tenure. They've surprised, and the coach is surprised. So, I think we're in good shape. I think after last year's win in New Zealand was probably the most important win because, in a World Cup, you've got to win games back to back to back to back, and you got to deal with injuries. You're on tour basically as well. So you're out of your comfort zone. You're not going home to see your family or your kids, whatever it might be. You're actually on tour, and you got to keep mentally strong, game after game after game, with the Romanias, the Tongas, the South Africa, whoever it might be, and then into the knockouts. And it's a really tough mental test. And you know, you don't have the comfort of the Six Nations where you're at home and you might be away the next day, but you're home and then you have a rest for 2 weeks. And this team has proved they can do that back to back in New Zealand, which is the worst place to do it. So there's a lot of benefit going in here once they avoid the various potholes, which are, you know, obviously injuries and, you know, I guess mental dips in form or whatever it might be, you know.
Yeah, true.
Victor, I was just going to pick up on what you were saying about Johnny Sexton and how the referees might target us. Do you not think that maybe the fact that it was Leinster rather than Ireland, and therefore there might be a kind of a different feel to it? Do you still feel that we'd be saying, well, it doesn't matter, it's still Sexton regardless whether it's Leinster and a different competition?
I think referees are human, you know. I think we don't have a situation where we're Nigel Owens who'd be really, really objective. You know, it's very hard to kind of be negative on that incident with Johnny Sexton because what he has done for Irish rugby, and I would hope that before he finishes his outstanding career, the way he, you know, had at the start and the middle of his career, that type of level. But the reality is, as I said, Ireland getting to the top echelons of World Rugby put it in. I mean, normally, if Ireland were playing New Zealand in the semi-final, I mean, come on. I mean, like, you know, the chances are referees not going to put New Zealand out in the 50-50 calls. You know, back in the day, I'm talking like 10, 15 years ago, they're not going to, even if Ireland had the best game they could have on the day, the referee probably is going to go outside with New Zealand because the expectation is, confirmation bias is that New Zealand are going to win that game. Ireland worked hard to change that, and therefore they're number one in the world, reasonably consistent in the last 2 years, and they're beating top quality player teams. So when they go to that quarterfinal, and the hosts or whoever they're playing in the quarterfinal, hosts or New Zealand, that if a referee sees a 50-50 ball, that he can give it to Ireland, knowing that Ireland are actually a very good team. They were the world-dominated team. The problem I have now is Jaco Piper is refereeing our game against Scotland. So Jaco Piper was the guy. Yeah, so he was. I mean, he's not a great ref, right? We all know that. But
he's fucking shite.
He's called toilet paper for a reason.
Yeah, but what I'm saying to you is that, you know, if you think what he did to us when we beat New Zealand in 2016, I think it was, in Chicago, we came back and played better in the Aviva than we did in Chicago, and he rode us off the pitch, you know, and you know, like, what's he going to do to us against Scotland? I mean, you know. What Johnny wasn't playing that day. He came off the out of the stand and abused referees. You know, like I just don't hope it doesn't come back and bite us. That's all. You know, and a lot of work has been done to get to the stage where referees respect Ireland and know that Ireland are the number one team in the world. And I just hope because it's small margins. You know, it's all small margins.
Yeah. No, you're right, Victor. I totally agree with you. Good question, Pete. By the way, Matt, any Irish players that played themselves out of a jersey after the Italian game?
I only saw half the Ireland-Italy match. I was on my way back from the UK after getting my sister, bringing her home on a ferry. So I only saw the second half. So I can't really say whether players played themselves into the jersey or not. So I'm just going to say nothing and move on.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Richard Holland.
Well, if you look, there was a number of players released back to their provinces today. The likes of Coombs was released back. Blade was released back. Blade was I don't think he was ever going to go anywhere. I think there's 3 other scrum halves in front of him. So I think what you said is 38 players left in camp now, Peter. Is that right?
38 players left in camp. 33 have to be on the list.
Yeah, well, I think to be honest with you, Andy Farr knows he's 33 already. The remaining players might get a chance, maybe they'll get the chance to give themselves one last shout, and after that, we'll see. But
did anyone in particular, Richard? Sorry to cut across you. Did anyone in particular, you kind of when looking at that game said?
Not really. I'll be honest with you. Not really. Now the English game, I'll be more interested in.
Okay. All right, Claire.
I didn't. I was sick. I had tickets for that
Oh, you
game,
were.
and
That's right. That's right. Yeah,
I was very sick that day. So yes, kind of didn't get to see much of the game,
that's
shall
right.
we
You
say?
were. That's right. You were.
Yes.
That's fair enough. Okay, I remember that now. Yes, Peter Martin.
Yeah.
Again, I suppose just echoing what everyone else has kind of said. The spotlight has been on kind of Stockdale and Earls. Like Stockdale started to play that game like he had a point to prove. Like he was basically, it was all about him. Getting his hands on the ball early and trying to make a big impact. Like he was really out to impress. Played like it. Made a few mistakes, and depending on whether you're, if you have a bias or a preconceived bias towards Stockdale as a player, if you like him or not, would probably determine whether you think he'd be on the plane or not. But apart from that, nobody, and I think that's a good thing. Nobody has really kind of stood out as a sore thumb saying, "Well, Jesus, he was fucking shite." He may as well just basically, when he leaves the Aviva, just keep walking. Don't even go back to the camp, kind of thing. That would have happened probably in the past.
Yeah.
Like players would have probably not been mentally, perhaps, mentally strong. If the jersey being thrown at them in the dressing room, so right, lad, there you go, chap. There's your shot. Don't fuck it up, kind of thing. And unfortunately, because preparation, mental attitude, blah blah, it didn't happen for them. But I don't think it's like you'll hear Farrell going on about how tough a decision it is, and it will be tough because these guys have never been so well prepared. They've got the mental toughness there. They've got all the help. They do all the right things. They go to bed at the right time. All this kind of stuff, and it's making it a very tough decision, which is only a good thing because it's not a question of like shit. We've got the 33. There's a gap between the 33 who are going to go, and then the next few players who are unfortunate. Like it should be seamless kind of stuff. Guys who are just going, there's just something very, very small.
Yeah, there wouldn't fit a hair between them normally.
Yeah.
Victor, is there anyone that did you see the Italian game first of all?
I did, yeah.
And it popped up in our group for a conversation that Stockdale did himself no favors. Would you agree with that, or?
I would. I mean, I'm not. It's always very hard for an ex-player to kind of slate or give out about a player because we've all been there and everyone's doing their best and it's a privilege to wear the jersey and so on. But the problem is the competition is so tight, and Stockdale is a product of Joe Smith rugby, which is a different game plan to what they're playing nowadays. And there's a lot of competition in that back line, that back three. Stockdale potentially was trying too hard. He was off timing. He was in the wrong place. He got caught badly for the try. And unfortunately, in the modern game, with that amount of competition he has and with what Andy Farrell wants for the blend, I mean, it's always the sum is bigger than the parts. And, you have a huge excuse there not to bring him. Now, unless he's doing stuff in training that makes sense and the team player. I mean, Earls is a big professional. And, he's a guy who the team respect. He's obviously a senior player. That lends itself to the kind of hierarchy and leadership in the group. I don't think Stockdale is that person, so therefore he doesn't have as much credit in the bank. And reality is, with the way things are, I can't see him making the plane. So I don't think he did himself any favors. It's hard to judge someone on one game, but that's where we are at the moment. That's where Ireland is.
No, that's fair enough. Richard Holland, because most of these are Munster players, I'm going to you next with this. The players who have returned to their provinces, not most. It's fairly evenly split, so to speak. Blade has gone back to the province. Gavin Coombs, who I like, has gone back to the provinces. Calvin Nash, who I think deserves a shot. Jamie Osborne and Kieran Treadwell. Any of those that you disagree with?
I wouldn't say disagree. I feel sorry for Coombs. I really do. I think he's a talent, and Nash as well. Obviously, I'm a Munster man, but Calvin Nash, he's been one I've been watching for 2 or 3 years now, and he's exciting to watch. He has that X factor, I think. I'll be honest with you. And obviously, Coombs has power. Now, I've seen it said somewhere that the reason he's not going is he doesn't really have pace, but I would disagree with that. He is quick when he wants
I
to.
wouldn't agree with that either. Yeah, no, I disagree with that.
I think actually, if Coombs got a run with that team, I think he'd really excel. And the problem is, it's kind of like a closed shop. I think if he got a run of a games, you need to say to a player, listen, you've got 3 games or 2 games or 4 games. I think if he slotted into that back row, he wouldn't leave. You know, he's that good. You know?
Yeah, I do agree with that. Yeah. But then who do you drop in that back three? You know.
I mean, the back row issue. Sorry, go on, Claire.
I think with the strength and depth that we have with most of our positions, it is tough. Coombs is a good player, but he's just look at what he's up against in the back row. You've Doris, you've Palm, you've Poland, Josh Van der Fleer. You've like just any other time he was there, but it's just he's up against some of the best back rowers.
And it's the same argument, Victor, as you were saying. It's the same argument for Stockdale. Look who he's up against for that position.
Yeah, but like Stockdale has, I know I'm being hard to Stockdale, right? But Stockdale played a real. I mean, I always found Stockdale a guy who was at the end of a kick or the end of a pass or a kick through, right? I think he's extremely great. He's a great finisher. Back in the day with Joe Smith, when Joe Smith played a particular game, Coombs has played extremely well. He's a very talented player. And I just think that if he got in within the mix, he wouldn't leave that back row as an option. I'm not saying that he'd be picked, but he'd be knocking around the outside squad for sure. I think you've got to start thinking in the future. I mean, if you look at what they're doing with Caelan Doris, putting him a 7 and you know, in case Van der Fleer or whatever it might be, we need a squad with a second. We need a second or third back row there, repetitively playing for Ireland. And, you know, I think he's definitely, I really like Coombs as a player. And he's been there with the kind of new Munster renaissance, you know, and he's very much been part of that, particularly in the last 6 months, you know, with the success they've had, the roaring success they've had, as an Leinster guy saying that. But, you know, watching them win games against adversity down in South Africa, the drop goal against, you know, he's been to the fore of that. And I just think he's one of these players that if he got a shot at playing for Ireland within the team, within that back row unit, I think he'd stay in that unit, and maybe to the detriment of, you know, one of his colleagues and or whoever it might be. But he's the future, you know. He's a young guy.
You know what I heard, Victor? You know what I heard? Why he's not being included? He never bought his fucking round.
Certainly not the same reason as Stuart Hogg.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Let's not go there.
Let's not go there.
No, let's not go there. Matt Boland.
Sorry.
Matt Boland. Excuse me. The players that are going home.
Look, I mean, somebody has to go. Unfortunately, it's the chosen few that are.
Sorry, Matt. They still could go. They
could, but at the moment they're going back. But I suppose it's probably they're so close that it must be very disappointing for them at this point to go back, because they could very easily be in the team, and they still have a chance if injuries happen and all that sort of stuff. They'll get their call up. But I mean, Gavin Coombs, I disagree with the fact that somebody said he doesn't have speed. That's just baffling to me. He's a great player, and he is he's so close. And I'd say, as Victor was saying, he's going to be, if he got a good shot in the team, he wouldn't leave it. And I can guarantee you, he'd be one of those players that would be constantly performing week in, week out in training, on the pitch, giving his all. He's a horse of a man. Like, he gets that ball within 5 meters, you know he's going over, and he'll take 3 or 4 men with him, you know. And for the age of him, it's just, he's brilliant to watch. And
he's freakishly strong.
He is freakishly strong, and you wouldn't, looking at him, you wouldn't think he's a really strong player, but by Christ, he is. He really is, you know. And out of all them, I think he's probably the better one that would be in the squad.
Well, I think personally that Coombs is definitely a future Munster captain, possibly an Irish captain. I do believe that.
Yeah,
he has that. He's in that mold.
I'll tell you, Richard, Matt, he'd almost remind you of Victor Costello for line breaking and 2-man tackles, wouldn't he?
Let's not go there.
Okay, Peter Martin. Players who are being sent home. Do you agree, disagree? Are we going to see them through injury or as a result of injuries to the current squad?
Well, the fact that there was players released, that was, like just there mentioned there a few moments ago by Richard, that's the first I had heard of it.
All right.
So look, Blade, he's another scrum half. I can understand that. Calvin Nash has had a fantastic experience. He got his first cap. Is it harsh? Of course it is. He wants more. Treadwell, there was talk about him, I suppose. Like, Treadwell was supposed to be there, kind of, I suppose, to get a bit of bulk, maybe as a specialist tight head lock. Obviously, Joe McCarthy seems to be getting the nod to do that job. Coombs, I feel desperately disappointed for, and I'm sure he's going, what the fuck do I have to do? Because he's did everything because he was released from the Six Nations squad, I believe, earlier on in the year, and he was basically told when it came out that he was told that he needs to work a little bit more on work rate, and apparently he did that. Look, we saw the end of the season. He had he's what is he URC? He's top scorer in the URC or something like that. Something
you're giving me PTSD here.
Statistically right up there. And and the fact that he's like such a devastating ball carrier, like he just takes, he's a boulder. Like when he gets going, he just bodies are flying, kind of thing. So desperately disappointing from.
Yeah. Right, gentlemen, we've 9 minutes left.
There's a question there. There's a question there for Victor.
I'm asking it.
Just in case you missed it.
No, I didn't. Victor, I have, and it's well documented, an issue.
A strong opinion with our opinion.
He has a bromance.
All right.
Bromance.
With, no, it's not definitely not a bromance.
It is bromance.
A certain Scottish and racing out half, and I often refer to him as a spoofer, and he's not worth it. He's just
had a great game at the weekend, P.
Yeah,
one swallow doesn't make a summer and all that. Victor, what is your opinion on Finn Russell?
Do you know what? He had an unbelievable run this year until we played them, and he capitulated in the second half when we played them, and but he had an unbelievable run, and he is very dangerous. But when he's on his game, you're in trouble. But when he's not, he just is useless.
He's shite.
Yeah, but like I don't know. It's a hard one to judge, really. If he gets momentum going, confidence up, he's pretty damn good. Pretty damn good.
But
you're getting me nervous.
As you said, Victor,
he's very diplomatic.
Jacqueline Hyde. It's Jacqueline Hyde. It's which Finn Russell shows up,
and the whole team capitulates with him. So
you used to say that about France. It depends on what France team turns up. It depends on what Finn Russell turns up. That's a very diplomatic answer, Victor. I do like your very diplomatic answer.
The reason being is because I'm seeing things in the future. I told you we've all got anxiety looking at this World Cup, and we're looking at Scotland. This time last year we wouldn't care about Scotland. Now we're looking at Scotland again and Finn Russell. So and we wouldn't have cared about Finn Russell last year because he wasn't playing that well. But this year he played well for certain games. But when he went down in the second half when we played him this year, he just switched off, as did the rest of the team. So. But then Scotland are different when it comes to the World Cup. They're really different. They perform well in the World Cup. So
they've got two outstanding players, I think. Duhan van der Merwe and Blair Kinghorn, I think, are two of their better players.
Kinghorn is very good.
He is. I mean, Jesus Christ! The comments are flying in here. Sorry, I'm not paying
attention.
Peter,
objection leading the witness. It's all about Finn Russell.
Yeah, a shite spoofer. I'll just go on, carry on. But what was my next question? My last question was, yes, briefly, because we're rapidly running out of time.
As usual.
As usual. Yeah, I know. Where's the time go? Briefly, right, here we go, Victor. The Rugby World Cup. Now, we have a special. Now, did you ever play against David Campese?
I did, once.
We have a Rugby World Cup preview with him on Saturday at 12 midday. because of work schedules and time differences and all that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to reference your comments about this with him, right? So I just want to fly through because we're going to run out of time. The Rugby World Cup pools. Pool A: New Zealand, France, Italy, Uruguay, Namibia. Who's coming out of that? Two obvious ones, really.
Yeah. Go on, say time. New Zealand, France. Next.
Okay, next. South Africa, our group. South Africa, Ireland, Scotland, Tonga, Romania.
I mean, you have to say us in South Africa, you know? Like, you just have to say it. So there you go. Yeah.
But what about all this fucking shit about Scotland being dangerous? That
You
people
brought
are
up
telling me
Scotland
and
Finn Russell. Your mate, Finn Russell. I'm hoping he's burnt out by that stage. You didn't buy him a pint, did you?
No, I fucking didn't. I'd fucking throw a point at him if I saw him. No, I wouldn't do that. That's a
No,
terrible
I wouldn't waste the beer.
No, you wouldn't waste the beer, yes. So you're going so South Africa, Ireland in Pool B. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Pool C: Wales, Australia, Fiji, Georgia, Portugal.
Where's Australia? I'm trying to save your time here.
No, you're grand. No. I'd actually go Wales, Fiji.
I'd go Fiji, Australia.
Sorry, Australia, Fiji.
Yeah, Australia, Fiji.
Listen, this brings you back before you go on to the next group, right? There's a lot of teams out there, countries that are World Cup savvy. So if you go back to 2011 when we played Wales, we beat them hand over fist in the Six Nations, but we don't beat them in the quarter final. So we need to get to the World Cup savvy. And I know I don't want to waste your time here, right? But
no.
After this World Cup, right, we need to decide as a nation. You know, depending on how we do, France forgoed probably 2 Six Nations by picking youth, 2-3 years ago. And they forego 2 Six Nations. We never forego November internationals or Six Nations. We want to win every game for confidence or for the RFU or for money or whatever it might be. We try and win every game. Now we're number one in the world and we're going into World Cup. If we fall flat on our face on France and these people who forego Six Nations and Triple Crowns and November internationals proceed like Wales suddenly coming good here, then we got to rethink our strategy in the World Cup cycle. It's not for now. It's for a regroup after the World Cup. And when you see Wales doing what they did now and did what they did against us in 2011 in the World Cup quarterfinal, when we were beating them that year and the year before, that makes me believe that they're going to do the same again. This, or certainly more than what they did in the Six Nations. So that's why I think they'll come out of that group.
Well, then, Victor, I'm saying that, right? Would you give a shit? Would you care if Andy Farrell fielded a second string Ireland team against England at the weekend?
No, and I wouldn't care if he did it in the Six Nations. I wouldn't care if he did it in November. But the ethos in the IRFU, and probably rightly so, there's sponsors, there's benefactors, is to win every game. So do 48,000 people in the Aviva want to turn up in November to an under 21 side playing South Africa? And the answer to that is no. They want to see Johnny Sexton and the clever people. But the reality, and we'll know this year, is it more beneficial for the World Cup that we do that 1 year or 2 years prior to the World Cup cycle? We'll know in the next 8-9 weeks. So when you talk about Wales were useless against us in the first round of the Six Nations this year. However, let's see how they are in the World Cup because they played well. They're playing well at the moment, you know. And we will learn a lot from this World Cup. It might be heartbreaking, it might be ecstatic, but we're going to learn a lot, and we need to adjust according to what we do learn. You know, that's why I'm saying to you, you know, I wouldn't be putting Fiji ahead of Wales in a group.
Right. Okay.
No matter how bad Wales are. You know?
Just a comment. Just what Victor was saying. Fabien Galtier, people were baying for his head when he first came in, and he did say he was building to the World Cup, and it seems to have come. Well, we will know at the World Cup, but it seems to have come with getting the young people in, and we can't. Our team is getting older and older and older. We need to start getting the youngsters up behind. Like Sexton is 37, 38. Like the guys Team Healy, yes, they are great players, but as Victor said, sometimes it's time to know.
And by the way, sorry to interject there. You can age a hell of a lot between a Six Nations and a World Cup. So between last Six Nations, 6 months.
Oh, tell me about it, Jesus Christ!
Yeah.
The wrinkles and the worry and the stress.
Yeah.
Well,
and we're not even playing.
And we're not even playing. Victor, the last pool: England, Japan, Argentina, Samoa, and Chile.
England, Argentina.
England, Argentina. Okay, fair enough. And a quick yes or no: Ireland v England at the weekend. Who's winning that?
I think
Sorry, that's
Ireland
not a
will
yes
win
or no.
that.
It's a team.
Yeah,
I think Ireland win
absolutely.
that.
You know,
Okay.
we needed
We're not
an upward trajectory on last time. You know.
Yeah, well, plus the fact England are just fucking shite.
They're shite now. They might not be shite. Like, listen, in 2007 they were shite and they got the World Cup final.
Yeah.
Well, actually, come here, Victor. Do you think Borthwick will be in a job after the World Cup?
Do you know what? It's very hard to predict. I like to focus on us lads. Like, you know, we've enough on our plate. Who cares about them? But what I will tell you, we put 40 points on them in Croke Park in 2007. They got to a World Cup final. You know, so it's a different animal, this World Cup. And again, we need to be World Cup savvy. This is going to be a big learning, this World Cup. We need to understand what our priorities are during and after this.
That's true, actually. Yeah, that's true. Good point, Victor. Yes. Right. We're going to have to end on this one because I'm just going to go around. Matt, Ireland v England at the weekend.
Ireland.
Right. Richard?
Ireland.
Okay. Claire?
Ireland.
Okay. Peter?
Us by 20 points.
By 20 points.
He always has to make it one more.
Yeah, Victor. Yeah, actually, the score margin. What would you reckon at the weekend?
I think about 10-15, maybe. I mean, I don't think we're in a position to run away. You know, we're still in the kind of pre-season, pre-World Cup. You know, watching ourselves, getting the moves right, getting the tactics. You know, hitting but not hitting. You know, we're still kind of testing. We need to improve on the last game, obviously, for the trajectory. But I don't think it's going to be a massacre. I mean, they've got a point to prove. You know, and when they've got a point to prove, that's where the hard hits, the late hits, the red cards come in. So I think from our point of view, it's about what we do in the pitch. It's not a match we have to win or prove anything. We just need to improve our structures, game plan, etc., etc. Line outs, keep everything tidy, scrums, the whole lot. You know.
That's a good point. Good point. Right, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have time for this evening. We've gone over the hour mark. My thanks to Matt Boland, Richard Holland, Claire Devney, Peter Martin, and to you, Victor Costello. It's been an absolute pleasure. And thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. It's been great talking to you, great chatting with you. And I'll see you for that point at some stage. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Looking forward to the next one. No problem. No problem.
Thanks, Victor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye.